In step 3, we'll perform vector overlay analysis by coding the number of parcels intersected by the floodplain. First, we'll use spatial join to join parcels with the floodplain, being sure to uncheck Keep All Features. Then we'll open the resulting table and note the parcels where floodplain zone equals A. Last, we'll rename the layer with the number of parcels impacted and update the symbology. Back in ArcGIS Pro, there are a couple of ways to perform a spatial join. One is to right-click the target features, in this case parcels, and select Joins and Relate, Add Spatial Join. This opens the Add Spatial Join window, in this case, with the target feature set to parcels, and the join features will set to floodplain. Now the problem with this add spatial join in this case is that the attributes are assigned to the target features, the parcels, and we want to create a new feature class. You can access this same exact tool from the data ribbon and add spatial join. But we're going to use a different spatial join tool. And so we'll activate the analysis ribbon, click on the tools, and in the geoprocessing pane under find tools, I'm going to search for spatial join. I'm going to right-click the spatial join item and select locate, and it locates the tool in the analysis toolbox. In the overlay tool set, there's spatial join. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And then now I'm going to set the target features to parcels, the join features to floodplain, and then notice I can output a feature class, which is what I want to do. I want to output my results to a new feature class. So I'm going to rename this feature class as parcels underscore impacted. Set the match option to intersect. And then I want to change one more thing where it says keep all target features. I want to uncheck this because I only want the features that are intersected to be returned to the parcels impacted feature class. So I'm going to uncheck keep all features and click run. Close the geoprocessing pane and you can see it's output my parcels impacted feature class and loaded as a feature layer in the contents pane. And if I right click the feature layer and select attribute table, I can see that 153 parcels were impacted, and all 153 of those parcels are coded with the floodplain zone A. So the floodplain attributes are added to the parcels that intersected the floodplain. Go ahead and close the attribute table view. Now I want to rename the feature layer as parcels space impacted, open parentheses, 153, close parentheses. Also want to update the symbology by clicking on the patch. And I'm going to change the symbology to 10% simple hatch. Switch to the properties panel and change the fill to red and the outline color to no color. Close the symbology pane, and now I've identified those parcels impacted by the floodplain. And if I zoom in on that same area of Sunset Valley, I can see my logic holds up. Every parcel that is intersected by the floodplain is coded as parcel impacted. Now, notice that some parcels are impacted more than other parcels. And so what we really need to zero in on is the acreage impacted. And we'll do that in our next step. All right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom to my city limits, reset my map, save my ArcGIS Pro project. Now we'll identify the parcel acreage intersected by the floodplain using vector overlay analysis. First, we'll use the intersect tool to create a new layer with only parcel acreage in the floodplain. Then we'll calculate geometry for the acres field and visualize the statistics. Last, we'll rename the layer with the parcel acreage impacted and update the symbology. Back in ArcGIS Pro, I'll activate the analysis ribbon and click on Tools and return to the Overlay Tool Set. This time I'm going to click on Intersect. That opens up the Intersect Geoprocessing tool. Notice the pairwise intersect message at the top. Our data set's really small, and that's for really complex and large data sets. So we're fine with just using the Intersect tool. So let's set the input features to parcels and floodplain. The output feature class we're going to save in our project geo database and call it parcels underscore impacted underscore acres. Go ahead and leave the rest of the parameters set to the default. Click Run. Close the intersect tool. We can see our new parcels impacted acres feature class in the project geo database and also listed as a feature layer in our contents pane. If we right click on the feature layer and select attribute table, we can see there's 153 features, which is the same number of parcels impacted, but this time we've got the exact geometry of the parcel impacted. And you can see it's all coded with the attributes from the floodplain. And so we need to recalculate the acreage because it's not automatically updated when the geometry is changed. So I'm going to right click acreage and select calculate geometry. In the calculate geometry window, under the property, I'm going to select area. In the area unit, of course, we're going to set to international acres and the coordinate system to the same as the map, which is State Plane, Texas Central. Go ahead and click OK. And notice our acreage has changed. And that's because it's smaller than the original parcel. Now, if I right-click the acreage field and select Visualize Statistics, I can determine the sum of the acres impacted. So if I go down to the statistics, I can see 187 total acres were impacted. Go ahead and close chart properties and the chart view and the attribute table, and let's update the layer name. We're going to call it parcels space impacted space open parentheses 187 space acres close parentheses. Let's update the symbology as well. I'm going to click on the symbol patch, go to the gallery and scroll down, and we're going to use crosshatch. And then go to properties. I'm going to go ahead and change the outline color to no color and the color to red. All right, if we zoom into that same area of Sunset Valley, we can check our logic. And we can see that it created a new geometry, which is the intersection of the parcels and the floodplain. And then you can see how we can calculate the exact acreage and whether the floodplain has a little impact on the parcel or a big impact. All right, go ahead and reset your map. Save your ArcGIS Pro project. All right, so here are the results for our vector overlay analysis. How are Sunset Valley buildings and parcels impacted by the floodplain? There were 127 buildings impacted, 153 parcels impacted, and 187 parcel acres impacted by the floodplain.